My name is Pinar Yoldas, and I'm an artist and researcher hailing from United States primarily. I'm hopefully finishing my PhD in Media Arts and Sciences at Duke University. My dissertation, my research is focused on the intersection of art and neuroscience, so I'm looking at the brain and how the brain kind of perceives and understands arts, etc. And I have this theory of synaptic sculpting, which is through art, you can create like new forms of knowledge. So I come from a very highly eclectic background, and I started off as a very young scientist, and I actually excelled at chemistry, and to this day I'm proud of this. I got like a bronze medal in chemistry in the science Olympics. So I was a total nerd for a while. Then I made this 180-degree turn to architecture, and then I studied interface design and computer science, and finally a little bit of neuroscience together with media. So I have been in school for a very long time, and that informs my artistic practice heavily, because I don't see the separation, like I don't see where research ends and where art begins. These disciplines that I've been trained in, that I'm interested in, are very important for me because they drive the work in multiple ways. And for that very reason, the work is highly cross-disciplinary, and I actually call it infra-disciplinary or anti-disciplinary. Infra meaning like beyond disciplines, because with the work, I'm also suggesting new disciplines that may or may not exist yet. Because, you know, every 10 years, every 20 years, we witness the birth or the emergence of a now new scientific discipline, or there's like a subfield of a bigger discipline, etc. So there's always this kind of evolution. And by interdisciplinary, I give myself the freedom to imagine, new disciplines that are based on aesthetics or that are based on arts, but are also informed by, technology and science. About Anthropocene. This is a term that we borrow, or that has been introduced by geologists. John Crutzen, I believe, in 2001, he writes a paper called What is the Anthropocene, where he defines the Anthropocene as an epoch in the planetary history where mankind becomes the most impactful force on the surface of the planet. So how geologists name these epochs is basically inspired by the most, the biggest force that affects the Earth. And geologists now believe that it's us humans, not tsunamis, not winds, not earthquakes, but human beings. So I find the term useful. It's kind of catching on. I actually, when I started making the kind of work that I'm making, I didn't know about this term. That was like a decade ago. It kind of turned into a buzzword to imply mankind's negative impact on the environment or other life forms. So I find it useful. Do I have any other terms instead of the Anthropocene? Actually, no. There are some people who propose Capitolocene, I think. There's Donna Haraway who proposes Chutultocene. I hope I didn't butcher the pronunciation. So there are all kinds of scenes coming in from humanities and cultural theorists to kind of define this era. But I guess Anthropocene makes sense. And the work that I'm doing, or that I'm showing here in the exhibition, addresses these, multiple dimensions of the Anthropocene. So I'm talking about global warming. Actually, climate change is a sugar-coated version of global warming. Initially, it was global warming, but now we call it climate change because they say it's more neutral than global warming because it doesn't imply anything. It's just a change, right? It doesn't have to be good or bad. But we know that it's not very good. So I'm talking about that. I'm talking about governance and migration and future of artificial intelligence, which are again, developments that come from science, which might change the way we live our lives in Capitalocene or Anthropocene. I'm talking about biotech, but I'm also talking about how biotech changes or how biotech might affect the definition of nature versus culture, etc. But I'm also talking about all young organisms that are affected by the Anthropocene. The Warm, the Cool, and the Cat is the title of this exhibition. The Warm is referring to the global warming yoga studio, which is one of the primary pieces that takes place in the cathedral. This amazing space where we're building a yoga studio, a pop-up yoga studio where you can go practice yoga. We wrote global warming with infrared lamps which emit heat. So you'll be practicing hot yoga while you're reading this text and experiencing this heat coming from this text, which is quite literal, I have to confess. But I think there's something about it. There's also the mirrors where you see your reflection. So I think the whole yoga platform could also become a platform for further contemplation of where we're headed. I'm also interested in all these like health practices. For instance, yoga, especially in the Western world, has become like this way of purification, self-awareness, mindfulness, etc., like detox, right? Like we sweat all together, but we drive to these yoga studios with our cars. We like spend money on yoga clothing. We're, building all this culture, which is again seated at the heart of capitalism. So I'm kind of like trying to think about these contradictions as well. So the cool in the warm, the cool, and the cat is a reference to the piece at the second floor, the young organism. So let's remember the Anthropocene. Anthropocene comes from geology, but it's become this buzzword to imply the negative impact of mankind. But it also is a collection of all kinds of environmental problems we're having, such as air pollution, water pollution, deforestation, soil depletion, and all the toxicity that's kind of circulating in the earth, in Earth's ecosystems, which primarily affects the young organisms. So whenever there's an oil spill, it's the baby dolphins or like the baby krill that dies. Whenever there's plastic waste, it's the baby albatross that can't, survive this. So it's almost always the young organism that suffers the most. So on that floor, I'm kind of, building these embryonic forms that refer to all these young organisms that are affected. But at the same time, talking about biotech, which has the potential to become a technofix for us, right? All the advances in biotechnology now is the last frontier, the DNA, the genetic code, the language of life, right? And we can write this again and we can design our own organisms. We can design things that are like more fit, or they can survive better, they can eat plastics, etc., etc. So again, I want to bring these two, extremities together in the same part. And I think it's cool because biotech I find very cool. And the cat in the warm, the cool, and the cat comes from the video piece in the cathedral again. And it's an animated cat that is the governor of a large city in Europe in year 2039. And this cat is telling us how she's become the governor. And it's actually the face of an artificial intelligence which governs a family of artificial intelligences that leads the city. And this is a time where artificial intelligence has taken over and there are no politicians left. There are politician-free zones, and all the cities are governed by these robotic and computer-based systems, algorithmic systems. So that's the cat. That's where the cat comes from. The name of the piece is the Kitty AI.
I was only 8 months old when all hell broke loose in West Eurasia. Well, actually, that makes 15 human years for a cat, so perhaps I wasn't that young. We were all terrified, man, woman, cat, dog, child, kitten, all of us.